They ready? Morning, members. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please remind you to ensure mobile phones and other devices are on silent, so that banners, etc. are not permitted, and members of the public are not allowed to address the meeting, to use the microphones which are available when addressing the meeting, and that you may be filmed or recorded during this meeting. Thank you. Today, the council chairman is on other council business, so the meeting will be chaired by the vice chairman, Councillor Richard Butler, and he will be supported by a former chairman, Councillor Roger Jackson, this morning. So please be upstanding for the chairman. Vice chairman.
I'll put my microphone on. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's County Council meeting. Can we start, please, by remaining standing, and our prayers will be led by the Chairman's Chaplain, Reverend Bryony Wood.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Every day, thousands of dedicated, committed and hard-working public servants leave their families and homes to work for the people of Nottinghamshire. Very tragically, on some occasions, they don't come home. We'd like to take a moment of reflection to think about our colleagues who have lost their lives whilst on public service, paying particular tribute to Sergeant Graham Neville of Nottinghamshire Police, who lost his life while attempting to save a distressed man in Balderton last August. He was a hugely respected colleague and much-loved family member, and his service and sacrifice will never be forgotten. Whatever the circumstances, losing any colleague has a profound impact on our Nottinghamshire public service family, and we must watch out for each one of those affected, looking after them as we do for ourselves. Loving our neighbour as ourselves is not just a biblical phrase, but a mindset, a way of deeply caring for others as we are called to care for ourselves. Accepting that so many people go above and beyond the call of duty, whether motivated by love or their job, recognises the priceless service they offer. That they live and work in a way that makes this world, our community and county, a better place to live. When someone like Sergeant Saville, or indeed our late Queen, or any public servant discovers their true vocation, they are using their gifts and abilities to leave a lasting impact on the lives of people around them, and even those they might never even meet. Yet their sacrifice is not just theirs. The price of loving and living with such an unselfish person means the cost might be beyond anything they or those they love expect to pay. And while our news cycle moves on to new events, those left behind are still reeling with shock and grief, every day being a constant reminder of the cost of public service. So let's honour them and all who give so much by how we see each other, through the thanks that we give each other, by recognising the service that those around us offers in our conversations, our decisions and actions. Jesus was the one who urges us to care for our neighbour as ourselves. And he said that whatever we do for another, it's though we do it for him. And he was the one who understood the cost of sacrifice like no other in history. Please join me now for a minute's silence. Lord God, you really do understand the price of love and sacrifice, and you understand and feel the pain that those left behind are still living with. Be their strength and sustainer, their peace and provider, now and in the years ahead. And help us all to live unselfishly and for the benefit of our wider community, using our gifts and experience to serve others. Help us all to see ourselves and each other as reflecting the image of God, our Creator, as we seek to serve our community. Amen.
Thank you, Bryony, and please be seated. Thank you. Right, colleagues, so welcome. And item 1 on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. Are we happy that those are correct? Could you please show? No, thank you. Do I sign
Chair,
what?
thank you, Chair. Just to say, if we read the minutes, right, it's got me down. I left at dinner, right, for a family, for a family funeral. Sorry, so it hasn't even got it minuted, and also even in the votes in the afternoons. So I'd appreciate it if we could sort that out, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. I'm sure we can amend the minutes accordingly. So we're all happy with the amendments made. We're all happy with the minutes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So item 2 is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence? And first of all, can I ask Councillor Barnfather, please?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Jonathan Wheeler, other business. I have apologies from Councillor John Cotty, medical illness. Obviously, Councillor Ogle has given his apologies. He's on other county council business and will be joining us later. And Councillor Sue Saddington has a medical appointment this morning and also will be joining us later. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Barnfather. And Councillor Henry.
Yeah, thanks very much. We got apologies from 3 of our members today: Councillor Sheila Place, Councillor Paul Henshaw, and Councillor Glenn Guilfoyle for personal reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. I'm aware of Councillor Guilfoyle's situation, and we will pass on our best wishes to him and his wife. So if you pass those on. And Councillor Deacon. Yes, Councillor Helen White. It says Deacon on here, but there we are. It's my first test, isn't it?
Sorry, Councillor Deacon is running late this morning. She's hoping to get here as soon as she can. And Councillor Martin is at a funeral, so he submits his apologies today as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. If any councillor or officer has an interest in any matter on the agenda, you should declare it now. Please raise your hand now if you have an interest to declare, and when called to speak, you should state what type of interest it is and give brief details. So, Councillor Welsh.
Yes, Chair. It is on my declaration of interest, but there's a question that mentions the GMB trade union, and I'm an accompanying representative for people that work in places that are non-unionised, and that is a paid role.
Thank you. We were just making a note of that. You got that. And Councillor Henry.
Yes, mine is not an interest declaration of interest as such, but it's a point I need to make on item 7. I think I need to make a point there because I'm a local magistrate that sits on the youth magistrates bench in Nottinghamshire. So I've sought some advice, and I've been told I don't need to declare it, but I think it's important that I share that for you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Henry. Yes, well, it's entirely up to individual members if you think you have an interest to declare, so that's fine. And Councillor Councillor Bailey. Sorry, I should know you by now, shouldn't I?
Yes. So I've relatives impacted by the situation at Wilco, so non-pecuniary interest, I believe. non-disclosable pecuniary interest.
Okay. Did we hear that? Okay. No. Could you repeat it? Because we couldn't quite hear you. Could you stand up as well?
I have family members impacted by the situation at Wilco, so that relates to the motion.
Understood. So I just couldn't quite hear what you said. So thank you for that. Any other declarations? No. Okay. Thank you very much. So, Chairman's business. We have some awards today, and we have some visitors with us as well. So, first of all, this is we have the Adult Learning and College provision, which is a good provider. And Councillor Tom Smith, can I ask you to introduce the award, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. Allow me a few moments to talk about Inspire and its latest triumph. So Inspire, as the Council will know, is the Council's cultural and learning partner. It delivers a range of adult learning and young people's college programmes, and these are naturally subject to a full Ofsted inspection. Now that inspection occurred earlier this year between the 5th and the 9th of June. The inspection team of 5 met with key stakeholders, the Inspire Learning and Skills Committee, managers, curriculum leads, and possibly most importantly with students. The inspectors spent time observing teaching and learning and spoke with learners to evaluate the quality and impact of the learning programme that we provide. The impact of our Inspire College programmes for young people who, generally speaking, have had a difficult experience of school has a strong track record of both enabling those same young people to gain qualifications and build confidence and gain further skills. Chairman, some brief figures for you. The benchmarked achievement rate was 79.2%, which is 2.3% above the national benchmark for Inspire's category of provider. The Inspire College makes a significant contribution also to reducing the number of Notts young people who are not in education or training, something which the Nottinghamshire plan sets out as a desired outcome. Our adult learning programmes are both formal and informal, and they help those who are far away from work and formal education, allowing them to gain qualifications, new skills, and possibly most importantly, confidence to move forward into formal learning or into work. The national benchmark for all 19 plus provision was 86.2%, whereas Inspire Learning was above this level by 1.7%. Chairman, I have a good few more figures for you, and I apologise, but Ofsted do love their figures. So, the August 2023 GCSE results, Chairman, our English pass rate was 41%, whereas the national English resit pass rate was only 25.9%. For maths, we were 71% in comparison to the national resit pass rate, thank you, Peter, which was 16.4%. This means that Inspire College's GCSE English pass rate was 18.1% above the national resit pass rate, and that our GCSE maths resit pass rate was 54.6%. I know, stumbling on the English bit, Keith. 54.6% above national GCSE maths resit. Now, this, by anybody's book, is an outstanding figure. It is therefore no surprise that the Ofsted inspection made a good provider award to Nottinghamshire County Council's adult learning and college provision. And this, Chairman, is what we are here this morning to recognise and celebrate. And I also, Chairman, just want to make the point there are some very, very good people in Inspire who have worked very, very hard for this. So I think it's absolutely right that this is raised in full council. We acknowledge their work and we acknowledge the students' work as well. So yes, that's it, Chair.
Well, we're very good. Well done. And I'm sure we all took those figures in, didn't we? And because no doubt we'll be asked questions later. So well done. I've had the pleasure to attend a range of Inspire events over the last year, including the Inspire Awards evening in June. We heard many examples of how Inspire Learning has supported adults and young people to learn new skills and become active in their communities, gain qualifications and employment. I'm really pleased to be able to present this Ofsted Award to the team. I know you deserve it, and it's good that we as a council can celebrate with you. So, Oh, and we also love Ofsted as well at the right moments, don't we? So I'd like to invite a whole lot of people here. Peter Gore, Ian Bond, Michael Reed, Sandra Dickinson. She's an actress, isn't she? I think. Yeah. But Andrew Day, Andrew Goodall, Nikki Reed, Simon Cook, Joe Dring, Pippa Guthrie, Ellen Glynn Davis, Rachel Dorr, and Rebecca Douglas, together with Councillor Smith, to come up to the dais and receive the award. So, if you can. Right, and we have another award, and this is a special award, the Boots and Berets Award. And Councillor Tom Smith again. It's a busy morning for you. Can I ask you to introduce the award for the Boots and Berets, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Twice in one morning. I shall need to lie down. Chairman, it is a privilege to inform full council that Councillor Girling received a special recognition award at the inaugural Boots and Berets Awards last month on the 24th of August. The award, judged by an independent panel of representatives from business, local authority and charities, was presented to Councillor Girling by the Lord Lieutenant of Nottinghamshire, Sir John Peace. The award, which was one of two special awards, was given to recipients who had fought to ensure that the contributions and needs of the armed forces family are understood and addressed by public bodies such as ours. Councillor Girling is a committed and long-serving champion of the armed forces family across Nottinghamshire. His commitment to this work has followed him in both his professional and his personal life. And Chair, I think it speaks volumes about Councillor Girling that when he was told yesterday in private that he will be receiving this mention, he very calmly and very politely kicked off and spent 5 minutes telling us how it wasn't about him, it was about the team behind him and the veterans therefore. So Keith, very well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Smith, and patience, Keith, patience. So thank you, Councillor Smith, for informing us, and it is a special and important award, and I can confirm that Councillor Girling was genuinely, shall we say, reluctant yesterday to be awarded the award, but we said no, you've got to have it. So, as many of us know, Councillor Girling has long been a supporter and advocate of the armed forces community in Nottinghamshire, and it's great to see him this being recognised at such a prestigious event. So, genuine many congratulations from us all, Keith. And if you want to come up now, and we'll do the necessary. lovely to see Councillor Girling being humble, isn't it? Right, so congratulations on that. So I need to update on council business since the undertaken. And I can report that I've carried out some citizenship ceremonies in Newark and West Bridgford. I've attended Nottinghamshire Day flag raising event, Merchant Navy Day events in Kirkby and Ashfield and County Hall. And I had a good walk around the Gedling Country Park with the Mayor of Gedling on a charity walk. And I've attended the Inspire Knitted Teddy Bear event at Mansfield Library. That was fascinating. Over 800 knitted teddy bears made by volunteers. But they're good because it's for the police and they're handed out to families and children who might be in difficulties. And well, we all love teddy bears, don't we? I also attended the Inspire Poetry event at West Bridgford Library last week. And also last week attended a service at Newark Cemetery in commemoration of the Polish Air Bridge Remembrance that takes place every year, and that was a very special service. So I think we, oh yes, crucial, I'm just being reminded by the Chief Exec, crucial information, lunch should be at approximately 12:30 today, so let's behave ourselves and aim for that. And also, if you haven't already done so, could I remind you about the raffle that's taking place just through there for the Chairman's charity. So, with that said, we now move on to item 5, which is constituency issues. This item gives members who have previously given notice by the deadline the opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes on any particular matter relevant to their constituencies or any particular issues arising in their electoral division, which is relevant to the services provided by the County Council. This is an opportunity simply to air these issues in the council meeting. It will not give rise to a debate on the issues or a question or answer session. Members are reminded there is a maximum limit of 15 minutes for this item on the agenda, and each member may only speak for a maximum of 3 minutes, and the clock starts ticking as soon as you start speaking. And any speech is not heard in the time limit will fall and can be submitted again at a future meeting. So we have 6 constituency speeches due for today, and the first one is from Councillor Kane Oliver, and this is regarding flooding on Garden Road in Eastwood. So Councillor Oliver, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise today to speak on behalf of the residents of Garden Road in Eastwood. Last Monday, residents on Garden Road woke up to a disaster. They described it simply as like Niagara Falls had let loose on Eastwood. As a flash flood ripped through their community in the early hours of the morning on the 18th of September. Avent Homes, who have been turned down for planning permission for 104 houses on the old Lincroft Primary School site, had been undertaking groundworks to the site. The flooding caused by those groundworks led to residents losing their driveways, homes and cars as they were damaged and saw their fences ripped apart. Before I go any further, I'd like to thank Sue and her team at County Hall and the team at Broxton Borough Council for their efforts. But how can it be right that Avent Homes can carry out groundworks with impunity? They've caused the flooding. They built a huge reservoir behind residents' houses and then expressed surprise when heavy rain fell meant it flooded into the residents' houses. I and others have spent a huge amount of time with residents on Garden Road in Eastwood, and an investigation has now been launched into the flooding that happened in the early hours of last week. The reality is, Mr. Chairman, that unless we get to grips with the flooding issues linked to developments, we will keep seeing this council having to go under Section 19 investigations. The one thing I find really frustrating is that no flooding concerns were raised by Nottinghamshire County Council in the original planning application by Avent Homes. We need to do better as an authority. I hope that the developers, Avent Homes, fully compensate residents and now withdraw their ridiculous plan to build 104 homes on this unsustainable land and leave Eastwood alone for good. They've done enough damage, and I think I speak on behalf of all the residents within my constituency. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Well within time, so thank you for that. Our next speaker is Councillor Gordon Wheeler, and this is regarding HGV restrictions on Wilford Lane. So, Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Chairman. And may I say, I hope you have a very enjoyable day today, if that's possible.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. In July 2019, I submitted on behalf of residents of Wolford Lane and beyond a petition asking for HGV restrictions on Wolford Lane. 2019, that was 4 years ago. Since then, an awful lot of things have happened. There are 2 supermarkets on Wolford Lane, one of which is ready, up and running. The other one will be ready at Christmas time. Lots and lots of houses, an industrial estate, and much, much more. So Wolford Lane continues to get hammered by HGV lorries. Now, something has to be done. This can't be tolerated. There are meant to be improvements to the Nottingham Night roundabout. Well, as we all know, that's perhaps been kicked to the long grass for the time being. And I know there are good reasons for that, but it doesn't help the people of Wolford Lane, though, does it? We believe that HGV traffic should be directed and encouraged to use the Links Bar and the Inner Ring Road. HGV traffic from Collick Industrial Estate and East Crop Incinerator and sorry, I can't read my own writing, and Meadowbank should be head towards the M1 and directed to the Ring Road onto Clifton Bridge. Now, I'm not a highway expert. I just think that's one of the options, or it's one of several options that should be considered to ease the flow of traffic on Wolford Lane and make life bearable for residents. But we do need a restriction. We can't keep on saying we can't do it. Business won't tolerate it. We've got to put our residents first sometimes. I think this is a fine example of what we should be doing. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Wheeler, and again, thank you for being within your 3 minutes. Our next speaker is Councillor Tom Hollis, and this is regarding highways in Huthwaite. So, Councillor Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. The fact that the A38 and Sutton Road at its junctions with Columbia Street in Huthwaite has finally been resurfaced once and for all is excellent news. This is something that residents and I from across Huthwaite have been fighting for years. I have met with highways bosses at these exact locations on at least 3 occasions in the last year alone. I have also sent numerous emails and made speeches, as you know, in this chamber for urgent action. I consistently raise the issue in the old Communities and Place Committee and the new Select Place Committee. I spoke to officers on multiple occasions about my frustrations and their botched jobs at these locations, the cost of which must have run into hundreds of thousands of pounds. So yes, let's celebrate that this work has been done, but remember the waste of money in part-time patch repairs that have happened because of the Tories have no long-term strategy to fix our broken roads and pavements. This is taxpayers' money raised by council tax, which continues to go up and up. This year alone, residents have seen another £100 or so put on their bills by the Tories here. The council tax is wasted on botched jobs on the highways is simply highways robbery. Now, everyone knows that the Tories who run Nottinghamshire County Council are responsible for the state of our diabolical roads and pavements. This is something I take up on a daily basis. I seem to talk more to highways bosses than I do my own wife. I was therefore surprised earlier this year when officers employed by this council stopped taking my calls about this very issue. They stopped answering emails about this subject also. Then Mr. Ben Bradley turns up with Lee Anderson to announce these works. Anyone who knows me will tell you I'm not political. Thank you. Thank you. My fight, Mr. Vice Chairman, is for a better Carsick, Huthwaite and Sutton in Ashfield, and not against the main political parties. Whilst all that our current MP bangs on about is national issues like immigration, caused by the failure of his own Conservative Party, I was surprised to see Lee Anderson claim credit on social media for these works and call me bone idle. Now he's claiming credit for a belated works in Huthwaite. If he is claiming credit, maybe he could pay all the compensation due for damages to cars our patchwork quilt roads out of the £100,000 a salary he gets from GB News. Moving forward, I'm proud that our campaign, lasting years to resurface the A38 and Sutton Road in Huthwaite, has worked. Our campaign to
So,
resurface
Hollis,
other roads
Councillor,
and
I've
box
got to
jobs
be
will
very strict.
continue.
Your 3
Thank
minutes
you,
has
Mr.
just
Vice Chairman.
come up,
Thank
but
you.
we heard you very clearly. Thank you very much. Right, our next speaker is Councillor John O'Lee, and this is regarding highway repairs in his division. So, Councillor Lee, please.
Chairman, thank you very much. It goes to show the difference in how we work and how others work. I'm not going to mention any names, but when I come here, I'm standing up to show the hard work that hard-working councillors work in their patch. I've got a list of roads that I've working with partners here at the County Council have achieved and the work that we have done. So I'm going to start reeling them off. So we have fixed Marquee Avenue in Boulderton, 22nd of July. Major patching works done. Gibson Crescent, Boulderton, July the 22nd, large patching works done. Coggin Close, Boulderton, 22nd of July, large patching works done. Bakewell Close, Boulderton, large patching works done. Moulton Crescent, Boulderton, large patching works done. Again, 22nd of July, we like working on 22nd of July. Vassy Close, Boulderton, 22nd of July, large patching works done. Albert Avenue, Boulderton, August the 22nd, large patching works done. Smithson Close, Boulderton, July the 22nd, large patching works done. Meadow Road, Boulderton, July the 22nd, large patching works done. And I'm going to keep going. Christopher Crescent, Boulderton, November the 22nd, large patching works done. That's it. Oak Drive, Boulderton, large patching works done. Heron Way, Boulderton, August 22nd, large patching works done. Then I go on. Let me know when I run out of time. Myself and Councillor Sam Smith, we fixed Main Street, Boulderton, large patching works done. Heading towards Coddington, again, large patching works done. And that's the difference between us and opposition, is we work hard to make sure patching works are done instead of complaining when they aren't done. And that's the difference. The difference is we work hard for our residents, making sure works are done, and not complaining when we don't do works. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor, you actually have 45 seconds left. So, but no, that's fine. And calm now, please. Our next speaker is Councillor Steve Carr, and this is regarding flooding in Bramcote.
Chairman, that I think there are people on this side of the chamber that take great exception to that last speech.
Yeah.
The inference that we don't work hard for our community is a disgrace, quite frankly. And also, if you've had that much done, we know where all the money's going. It's to Tory areas and non-Tory areas are suffering. Anyway, back to flooding.
Just need to know.
Bramcote and Beeston North. Bramcote and Beeston North, like many areas, is suffering from flooding, house flooding. Ullswater Crescent, in my division, is the subject. Every time we get heavy rain, it floods. And it's not surprising because Cow Lane and Bridle Road, which are in the village of Bramcote, have no surface drainage. They're roads like that. So when it rains, it just pours down and it floods the lower roads. Severn Trent Water proving to be a challenge when it comes to sorting this problem out. They were meant to be inspecting the drainage on the A52, and when nobody's certain whether they've done it or not. And I have to say at this stage, my thanks to Sue Jakes and her team and Dave Walker, who are brilliant when the flooding occurs in getting sandbags there as an emergency. And if you could pass that on for me, Councillor Clark and Derek, because their work is really, really appreciated by me and the residents in this area. And now you see, I've experienced completely the opposite with regards to Broxtowe Borough Council's planning department when it comes to flooding, because on the agenda next week is Finsbury Close, and they haven't consulted the flooding team here, despite the fact that it's in a high risk of surface water flooding area. as outlined by the Environmental Agency. And there was a Section 19 investigation only 50 metres away because of the flood into houses in June 2020. I have to say, when I brought it to the attention of Sue Yates in flooding, she did make a comment about the application to Broxtowe, and changes will be made to their recommendation. But just to highlight and this is going to get worse, isn't it? As the climate change kicks in, the flooding issues are going to get worse and worse and worse. And it's just to highlight specific issues in my division, and thanks to those officers that really do help in trying to sort it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Thank you, Councillor Carr, for that. I've just been advised that we are very nearly at the 15-minute limit, but we only have one more speaker for constituency issues. So, with your forbearance, we'll go over the 15 minutes if we can. And I'm conscious of the fact I'm taking off that 15 minutes up. So, Councillor Dave Shaw, and this is regarding the NHS Cavell Centre pausing in Hucknall. So, Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for allowing me to speak. As members will know that my Ashfield Independent colleagues, Councillor Waters and Wilmot, have been working to secure new health facilities in Hucknall. News that Hucknall had been shortlisted as one of the 6 Cavell Centres health projects in the country was hugely welcomed 2 years ago as a super health centre. As a council, Ashfield was committed with over £1 million to the project, to the preferred site of the old 7 Stars pub on West Street, Hucknall. Then in June we were given the worst possible news that health bosses have paused with this critical project, and there was no money left. All 6 projects across the UK, not just including Hucknall's. The decision was made in February, but councillors were only informed in June. This, of course, was devastating news for residents of Hucknall experiencing healthcare crisis. Residents tell us they can't get doctor's appointments for weeks. NHS dental appointments do not exist. They wait for hours at the city hospital and QMC and A&E. Ambulances don't turn up, and the maternity unit is a recent subject of a police investigation. The rebuilding of our hospitals has again been delayed by the Conservative government, who in 2019 promised to rebuild. We all know that HS2 is more likely to be up and running before we see a new hospital. Whether it actually gets the second leg or not, I don't know. I'm asking for a plea for all stakeholders to get together and fight with one voice to send a message to NHS bosses that we deserve a new health centre in Hucknall. We need a new health centre in Hucknall, and we do not stop until we have one in Hucknall. My second part of my speech is to actually support the residents of Hucknall West. And that is the residents of Farm Avenue and School Avenue that have been directly impacted by a blight of this council neglecting their area of trees, grass and open area that is now a death trap. Because, no, don't you dare. It's a death trap. The prevailing wind is from west to east. It slopes on the
30 seconds.
It slopes. It slopes west to east. The wind goes west to east. There's 40-foot trees over bungalows. The residents in the bungalows are disabled. They can't get out. The grass is over 4 feet high. I've taken it to this council. I've taken it to the chief executive. I've spoken to the fire brigade. The fire brigade actually convinced me that I am right, that this place needs sorting out now. It cannot continue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw, and thank you for your timekeeping on that. So that was our final constituency speech issue today. So we go on to presentation of petitions. And I was notified of one petition by the deadline. And may I remind members that there is a 1-minute time limit for the presentation of each petition, and there is a maximum time limit of 15 minutes for this item. But we have one petition today, and that's from Councillor Francis Purdue-Horan, and this is regarding resurfacing of Old Grantham Road, Watton. So, Councillor Purdue-Horan.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm pleased to present a petition on behalf of residents of the village of Watton in the Vale in my division of Bingham East and other users of Old Grantham Road that goes through the village. Residents are fed up with the unsatisfactory condition of the road, and I'd like to thank residents and the users of the Old Grantham Road in signing the petition, and in particular to Mrs. Susie Sagu for organising the petition on behalf of residents to ensure their voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. So I would like to ask the Council to resolve that the petitions be referred to the appropriate Cabinet member for consideration, and a report will be brought back to the Council in due course in accordance with standing orders. So we move on to responses to the petitions which were presented to the Chairman of the Council at the previous meeting. I move that the contents of the report in the minute book are report and the actions are approved and be noted. Are we all happy with that? Please show. Yep, thank you very much. So we move on to our item 7. Now this is the Nottinghamshire Youth Justice Plan 2023-24, and I'd like to call Councillor Tracy Taylor, who will move the recommendations in the report. So, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman. Helps if you press the right buttons, isn't it? As the report at pages 37 to 41 of your agenda pack explains, an annual youth justice plan is a statutory requirement under the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998, and a copy of the full plan is attached as Appendix 1 on pages 43 to 52. This is a partnership plan whose key contributors include the police, the PCC's office, the Violence Reduction Unit, health, probation, district and borough councils, and children's social care and education. The report highlights the aims of the Youth Justice Service as being principally threefold: to reduce the number of young people entering the criminal justice system, to reduce the frequency and rate of reoffending by children and young people who are in the system already, and to keep the numbers of young people experiencing custody to a minimum. All of this is detailed in the report. Whilst this is an annual plan, in 2024 the intention is to publish a fresh multi-year plan which will reduce the impact of delays in bringing members' attention to the plan. We will of course continue to report annually on progress within each service year. The plan itself does draw attention to the 4 primary objectives for this current year 23-4 in terms of developing a shared diversionary vision across the partnership, improving the arrangements for children and young people on multiple pathways, strengthening the approach to addressing serious youth violence and exploitation, and improving access to mental health and speech and language provision. Thank you, Chairman. With that, I'll move the recommendation at page 41.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor, and I'd like to call on Councillor Sam Smith, who will second the motion. So, Councillor Sam Smith, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I second the plan and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. So, colleagues, we're open to discussion, debate, if anyone wishes to make any comments. Councillor Welsh.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome this this report and actually this information. It's something that we desperately, as a county and as a country, we need to get right. There are a number of things that I did want to raise about the report, and the first one to mention is with regards to county lines. So whilst in the report there is a sentence that talks about child exploitation, the fact that county lines is not highlighted within this report, I think is a miss. I think it's a serious miss. As someone that does a lot of work nationally on county lines. It's actually a big deal for us here in East Midlands. It's not always easy to report because it's behind the scenes from a criminal aspect, but actually it is really important that this should be within this report. Also, it would be amiss for me not to mention the fact that only this month the largest ever study of care experience and the youth justice has just been released. It was done, collated by the Ministry of Justice and the Department for Education, and is supposedly going to inform government plans of the future. The frightening thing with regards to it is out of 33% of care experienced children received a youth justice caution. That is a real high amount of people. If you compare that to 100 children that aren't in the care system, it is 4%. So the difference is really, really huge. And whilst I don't have the figures on hand with regards to Nottinghamshire as to what they are today, I am conscious of the fact that there are issues with regards to children in care, of being vulnerable, county lines, being targeted, sexual exploitation, particularly of young females. All of this needs to be addressed, and I don't feel it's as explicit in this strategy that I would like to see it. The truth is, and this is a fact, and a number of governments have actually failed children in care of this over the years, although now I do believe, from looking at the data and the facts regarding it, it's worse than ever. There is a disproportionate number of children, care experienced children, who receive a youth justice caution or a custodial sentence, and actually it's quite shocking. If you look at prison numbers and the amount of people that are in prison that have come out of care, it is shocking. The truth is, and this is the truth, and I'm not anything against this, what's in this strategy. What I'm saying is a lot of things that are in here will be very difficult to achieve because of what is in reality is going on in our services of children's services, not just here in council, but across the board. Across the board makes it very difficult in our health. We talk about mental health support, we talk about speech and language therapy. The wait for speech and language therapy, the waiting lists at the moment are ridiculous. Beyond belief, 12 months. 12 months. So some of those things that we talk about are all good intentions, but are we going to achieve them? I'm not sure that we are. So the truth is, without better investment and reform of children's mental health services, children's social care, family support and education, the writing off of life chances of children will continue. Those pathways that used to exist when I worked in education, which is getting further and further away actually now, they don't exist as much anymore. When you're working with a child in a school setting that is particularly vulnerable, there are a number of pathways of which you could go for early intervention, and many of those services just do not exist anymore. So whilst I agree with everything in this document with regards to what we should be doing, I think we need to talk more about child exploitation. I think we need to have more of an emphasis with regards to children in care, and certainly not ignore one of the biggest studies that this country has ever seen with regards to children in care and the youth justice system that's been released this month. But my worry is, and my concern is, we can say all of those things, but without those services in place for those children and young people, it's a hiding to nothing. And that is my worry, and that is my concern for the children of Nottinghamshire. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Welsh. Councillor Wilmot.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. We all know the number of children and young people entering the criminal justice system is unacceptable. More resources must be pumped into early intervention schemes, especially where parents and families have already had a run-in with the law. Our children's services should be providing education and early intervention schemes for the problem. We should also work with families, helping them to find job opportunities. It's all right increasing the number of children and young people accessing early intervention schemes, but sometimes it is the family on the whole that needs educating. Now we come to the children and young people already in custody, who are easily led by others. That is why a number of pursuits should be offered to them, with incentives obtained when they do well. Educating them out of the youth justice system is of prime importance.
Now you say that this youth justice plan has no additional costs associated with it. But if this is a new programme, why no extra resources? Isn't it this spin at the best, Mr. Vice Chairman? The current system does not work, and it is clear it needs more resources to make a real difference. And for that to happen, more and better accommodation for children and young people is required. More provision for early intervention schemes on education, training and employment. Mr. Vice Chairman, a lot of work needs to be done in the youth justice system, and it will need more resources to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilmot. Councillor Carlton.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to speak on this very important debate, as I very much welcome this report before us this morning. I primarily rise to speak as Chairman of the Nottinghamshire Substance Use Partnership, specifically in relation to this report on point 12, page 39 of your agenda pack, second bullet point, and I'll quote from that report. The appointment of a specialist substance use worker has improved the services approach to working with children and young people identified as having a substance use need. And I'd just like to take a few moments to quantify that statement. Recently, public health colleagues that support me in discharging my duties as chair of the partnership have met with the Office for Health Improvement and Disparities, Department of Health and Social Care, to discuss the first year of the new government 10-year From Harm to Hope drug strategy, which colleagues I'm sure will be aware that we amended locally to include alcohol. As part of this feedback to us, we are the only authority in England to hit the increased numbers of people going into treatment. It's something that we're extremely proud of, particularly alongside our partner Change, Grow, Live. In specific relation to this paper, I can further report to full council that we've already met our 3-year target in respect of young people going into treatment and support services. That said, we cannot rest on our laurels, and I hear very clearly the point that Councillor Welsh was making around county drugs lines, and certainly if any member would like to speak to me and organise a briefing on the work of the partnership, which Councillor Taylor's portfolio area leads on priority 3, achieving that generational shift away from drugs and alcohol, I'll be more than happy to arrange that for you. Like I said, there's clearly a lot more work to do in this space. We have set a high benchmark, and we can always have that debate of whether those targets were too high, too low. Personally, I think we've set that benchmark. Now it's down to us to deliver, and for that reason, I'll be supporting this report today.
Thank you, Councillor Carlton. Councillor Fole.
Thank you, and thank you for just the previous speaker. Just Councillor Carnes kindly pointed out, the substance use worker, there's one worker. Now, I understand that's a good appointment, and again, I welcome this plan. It's some really good proactive work going in here. But again, really is an issue of resources, isn't it, and kind of priorities. Just one worker to approach children identified as having a substance use need. Is that really enough? And over the page as well, improving access to mental health and speech and language provision. And we all know how tight that service is, how difficult it is to access. So yeah, it's good, it's there, but there's nowhere near enough, and there are children out there that are kind of suffering as a result. And just to support what Councillor Welsh has just said, I mean, clearly we need to understand the context in which this is working. And as I say, good strategy, but there is a context there. I've been a governor since 1992, and I've sat on way too many permanent exclusion panels. Every single child that was up that we permanently excluded either had a special educational need or disability, always looked after. And then there's a clear link from that into the mentoring the youth justice system. That's where we need to start. That's what we need to look at. We talk a lot about early intervention, and I think we all accept that it's a really good idea, but we need to put our money where our mouth is and do more. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fole. Councillor Barney, please.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much, but obviously supportive of this. There is some overlap as well, of course, with our work in adults and some of certainly the public health agendas and some of the public health spending that this county affords to our citizens. Absolutely affirm. I think actually probably we can look at each other and we feel very similarly across the floor in our response to our young people across Nottinghamshire and the challenges faced. particularly by those who find themselves in connection with the youth justice system so tragically and so sadly. And often, as we all know as well, that's a result of aspiring circumstances where things come together in family circumstances and you get those breakdowns, and it can be so difficult to lift people up out of the mire that they find themselves in. It's difficult for me to not reflect on this personally, just with my own experiences going back again with my own foster siblings. I've been many times to visit my siblings as they've got into trouble in different circumstances in different arenas, and I've seen the vulnerability that they have in their lives, the fear that they have. They put up the bravado of fight and defence, but inside they're children. They're quaking. To me, I read this, I see the voice of the child Tracy clearly reflected, shouting out from every page. This is totally children focused. We should not see our young people as criminals because of life circumstances they've got themselves to where they need. Of course, they need to be responsible for their actions, but we should still see them as children. We should reach out with a heart of love, and I see that that's what this seeks to do. I don't see it as spin, Councillor Wilmot. I see that from my part, and I believe from colleagues, we'd want to get behind Lawrence Jones in his chairmanship of this partnership and the Youth Justice Partnership Board, and give them all the support we can. Also, just to allude to the fact that we've just celebrated here the 2nd anniversary of the Not Alone website that we support, and that has 35,000 hits over the last 2 years, 100,000 page visits, and that's providing advice and support to those wherever they may be, particularly with mental health, which Councillor Welsh touched on, which we know is a significant issue for children and young people across Nottinghamshire. So just to say that I'm fully supportive. I don't feel this is spin, that we should work together and that we should put our arms of love around young people, wherever they might find themselves, and whatever circumstance they might find themselves in Nottinghamshire. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Barney. I've got 2 more speakers who have indicated to speak, and Councillor Carr is the first of those.
Thank you, Chair. This sort of scheme is absolutely essential. I fully support schemes such as this. I'm going to have to be careful what I say here because I don't want to give identities away. But I have 3 families in my division whose children cause all sorts of problems, and basically they terrorise other young people and adults. They have had one agency go to them to try and prevent this from happening, and it failed. They're now going through another agency visiting them at great expense, and it is only having very limited effect. My question would be, and I can't actually see it in the report, and I apologise if I've missed it, when do we actually stop going down that route, and when do consequences of their actions actually kick in?
Thank you, Councillor Carr, and Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd actually wrote a little thing here, but I'm not going to read off that. I'm going to tell you probably my personal experience on this. When I studied law back in university, and I went to watch these cases, and obviously not quite involving youth, but involving reoffending rates of adults coming up from the youth system, etc., and seeing how many actually fell into a reoffending situation, which had probably been multiple times in their youth. It hits home to heart when I stand in Eastwood, and I've mentioned it many times at Place Select Committee, and I've spoke to various inspectors, etc., and I've even had quotes from them themselves. And that is that, yes, everything that you're saying in here is right. There is no question about that. The question is, where do we begin? Now, for me, when I grew up, and I'd probably consider myself, no disrespect to anybody in here, one of the youngest in this chamber. When I was growing up, and it's okay. When I was growing up, I remember seeing the bobbies on the beat, and I'm one of the youngest in the chamber. So, what's gone wrong in the past 13 years administration of the Conservatives for those bobbies not to be on the beat anymore? I had to have a little dig. I'm sorry, guys, but I'll leave that one there. Okay. When I was growing up, there was operational police stations. I, as a young person, could walk into a police station. Okay, if I so wish to, and have a conversation with a police officer. I could walk down the street of Eastwood. I could walk down where I was originally from in Strelly, and I could walk down that street and I could have a conversation with a police officer. I now have to ring an operator. Find me one young person that is going to ring that operator. And I always say, ring the operator at any emergency, anything that's what it's there for. But the reality is, guys, and I say this freely, the reality is that we must begin at the basics. We must take it right back to what it was. Crime reoffending is one of its highest. Yeah? When we're looking at the 34% that it is now, from youth to adulthood, it's its highest. And I said this in the Place Select Committee last week, and I'll say it again. We need to go back to basics. So whilst I support the efforts to tackle youth crime, what is clear that apart from increasing policing, we need to reach out to the government. That's you guys on the other side of that chamber. You need to reach out to your government to properly fund these ambitious plans, because it is not going to happen without you standing up, not going for a nice lunch, without you standing up and walking in, and then it comes down to you, unfortunately, walking in and demanding that we have more police, more money, more funding to support these ambitious plans. And I think I speak for everybody on this side when I say that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Oliver. Councillor Pringle, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Taylor. No, I can't be that. In the past, perhaps, but not now. Look, thank you for presenting the report. The statutory report is always going to represent the positives which were taken out of here. But we all know that there's a system that's broken. We're all in situations locally to ourselves. Only recently, a couple of full councils ago, I raised an issue about sexual exploitation. I was going to say a lot more about different rises, but Chris gave me the eye, so I only raised the Newark one, rising at 40%. Okay, that, irrespective of what's in the report, is a reality. These are not my figures. These are reality, and it's not down to you, Tracy, to sort it. It's down to all of us to sort it. But when we're presenting these papers, we have to recognise the difficulties that are out there, and I'm not sure we've done that within the report. Councillor Barney, you're right. There has been contacts of 100,000, 35,000, and it's fantastic that we've got that facility. But that's 100,000, 35,000 kids that are looking for help. That's telling us exactly the system is wrong in what we are doing, and we are not supporting them kids prior to them getting the facility to actually call us up. So I think there's work to be done. I'm not having a dig. Right? I'm saying there has to be something that we do to stop this 100,000 people contacting that we should actually operate on. And do you want to come in now?
Just to say,
yeah, absolutely.
Yep, Councillor Barney.
Just to say, the Not Alone website actually does exactly that. So children can go to it. Please tell everybody about it, all the schools, and it points you in the right direction of where to go for your next steps. So it's really encouraging, actually, that people are reaching out, using that, and then using that as the launch pad to get to where they need to get to.
Yeah, I weren't knocking it. Okay, I accept what I'm saying is, if there's this many kids go to it, I'm assuming some will be from my division. And this week alone, I've had 3 contacts from families that are in bits. Yeah, they've tried every avenue to get support, and it's not there. This is not me playing Billy at full council. This is the truth. I can take you to them families today. And Councillor Carlton, you're right. Having one person for substance abuse is fantastic, but it ain't enough. We know that. Yes, it's a start. But if it was one person in each division or each area, that would be a positive, because I think there'll be links between each area across Nottinghamshire that we could relate to, and in particular county lines. Every governor's meeting that I go to, county lines raises its head from parents and teachers. So this I know Alan led on county lines for us previously, Alan Rhodes previously. We have the specifics. We have the people that have the contacts. We have the people who have addressed issues continually. Yeah. Now, I know next year we're going to present another paper, and I know it'll be positive again, Tricia. I know that, I understand that. But at the moment, certainly from our position, there's a broken system which, and I haven't got all the answers other than say, Ben, you need to go to London and get another 100 million to put into it, yeah, which is what's been said. So we have to together jointly do something that protects our children, because once they're in the system, they're very difficult to get out of the system. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. I don't think there are any other speakers. So, Councillor Smith, you seconded the motion, the recommendation, and reserve the right to speak. Do you wish to?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. First of all, can I just say thank you to all members for their sensible contributions to that, and I'm sure Councillor Taylor's taken lots of notes and will be very ably replying to those, so I'm not going to do that. I just want to say that I totally agree with Councillor Wilmot that early intervention is absolutely key. If you read page 6 and 7 of the report, it outlines the achievements of the plan, and I know Councillor Pringle just mentioned the achievements there, but the number of children and young people accessing early intervention and engaging in the voluntary programs of intervention has increased, and I think that needs shouting about and mentioning. And the number of first-time entrants has fallen, which is a positive that can come off the back of early intervention. In addition to that, the services have increased its offer to support in relation to education, training and employment, and all children and young people on a court order or an out of court disposal are now supported by an advisor according to their individual needs, which promotes educational inclusion. The service has also worked with the police and the children's social care, developing processes to ensure that children and young people at risk of child criminal exploitation, which Councillor Welsh mentioned earlier, or serious youth violence, are able to be identified at the earliest opportunity through the early intervention schemes, and they're supported by the most appropriate service. Whilst there has been good progress, which is set out on the report, this will remain a priority in the next year's plan, and I think that should be welcomed by Councillor Wilmot and everyone in this chamber today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. So, Councillor Taylor, you were the original mover of the motion, and you now have your right to pick up on several points that have been raised this morning.
Thank you, Chairman. I have made lots of notes, Councillor Smith. I don't think I can necessarily do justice to all the questions because you are going to have me on the clock, I realise. So I'll do my best. I'll start with Councillors Carr and Oliver. I was going to say it never ceases to offend me, to surprise me, but that's actually not true. I am never surprised when there is an opportunity seized to take a conversation off on a totally different tangent just to get a political point in, Councillor Oliver. The notion of where does this begin? This is a report about youth justice services, the partnership and the work that's going on to support our young people. Totally agree that we don't want children, we don't want anybody in our society entering the system to start with. We can have a totally different debate on whether we've got adequate police resources or not. That is not this report. And when Councillor Carr asked about agencies who've been in touch with families and when do we stop helping and move to consequences, I kind of have a degree of sympathy if you feel that people are not being made to deal with the consequences of their actions. But the whole purpose, the whole ethos of so much of this is stopping our children getting there. And if it's a support service that is required to put them on the right path, I'd far rather be there, Councillor Carr, and that's what exists within this partnership. So I'm not completely with you in the context of the way that you've asked that question. I mean, Councillor Wilmot, you talked about the numbers in the criminal justice system being too high. Yes, it's a given. It's not denied in the report. It is a fact. We would all want less people to be engaged with crime. Needs early interventions, absolutely. Help with finding jobs. Councillor Oliver says he's the youngest, probably one of the youngest in the chamber. I'm of a generation that was brought up with the mantra that the devil makes work for idle hands, and I completely support the notion of early intervention, support, distraction, and helping people to have jobs and meaning in their lives. So everything that is going on within the partnership aims to give that support, to build distraction tactics, all of those things amongst our partners. Going to questions about resourcing, Councillor Welsh, you and I could probably have about a 3-hour conversation about this outside this chamber. There is no doubt that we need to resource to meet the needs of children. And they're not linear needs. Children are a spectrum. Their needs are multiple. Yeah. Who knows? Every child is different. Every combination is different. I recognise some of the threads you picked up on, like CSE and county lines. They are work streams. This is a youth justice plan. It doesn't follow that CSE is young men necessarily embarking on that exploitation of females. So we've got a much wider justice system trying to address issues and needs. This is a youth justice service strategic plan. I'm very frustrated that we're obliged to do this annually, which is why I referenced earlier on that we're looking at refreshing with a 3-year plan so that we have a continuum, so that we are seeking with our partners to actually address needs on a continuum, even if I have to report to you every year on this. Somebody mentioned, Councillor Pringle, you mentioned that the number's positive, or the report is positive. It is positive because this year our progress and our work streams have produced positive results. I stand here every year and I talk to you about it. Last year it was a mixed bag. The year before it might have been a bit more negative. So it's not a sunny side up report. It is a true report in respect of the year that we're reporting on. So all I can say is the work continues. We recognise collectively there's a lot of work to do. In that sense, I think we all have a shared vision and ambition for the young people of Nottinghamshire. And I go back to moving the report as it is, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. So, colleagues, we have the recommendation as per the report. So we now go to the vote, please. So can I show of hands, those in favour of the recommendation, please show. I think that's probably unanimous, but for the record, no one against. It's unanimous. So, and yeah, no abstention. So the recommendation is carried, and thank you for your contributions to what is a very important subject for the reasons that we have heard. Right, we go on to the Scrutiny Annual Report 2022-23, and I'd like to call Councillor Boyd Elliott, who will move the recommendations in the report. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, and it's all going well so far, isn't it, this morning?
Jinxed it now. Don't say things like that, but thank you.
It's my pleasure to introduce the Scrutiny Annual Report. The report provides a summary of the work undertaken by Overview Committee and the 3 select committees over the last year, and details how the Council's scrutiny function has worked to support the delivery of the objectives contained in the Nottinghamshire Plan. The Council's 10-year vision for a healthy, prosperous and greener Nottinghamshire. Scrutiny is an important non-political process carried out by councillors on behalf of the residents of Nottinghamshire. Scrutiny raises standards by challenging the council's performance and checking whether policies and services meet people's needs. During the year, 23 scrutiny committee meetings were held and 3 detailed scrutiny reviews completed. This work has played a vital role in holding decision makers to account, reviewing policies and strategies, as well as considering how the council is delivering on its commitments to the residents of Nottinghamshire. Throughout the year, Overview Committee and the 3 select committees have focused on the critical issues for the council and provided constructive input to improve outcomes for residents. Important work carried out by members of the Overview Committee has included detailed scrutiny of budget proposals ahead of the budget and council tax being agreed by council. I'd like to thank all scrutiny members and cooperative members for their hard work and commitment to carrying out meaningful scrutiny in Nottinghamshire during the past year. I'd also like to thank Cabinet members and officers for attending scrutiny committee meetings and supporting the delivery of the in-depth scrutiny reviews that have taken place. The next year will be a busy one for scrutiny, as scrutiny seeks to support the delivery of the ambitions of the council
and I look forward to working with all scrutiny members, cabinet members and officers to deliver high quality scrutiny throughout 2023 to 2024. I move the report. Thanks for noting. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. And I'd like to call Councillor Nigel Moxon, who will second the recommendation.
Oh, that's gone wrong already. All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I rise to second this report to full council, and I do this as a late replacement for Councillor Guilfoyle, who is unable to attend today. I'm sure you'll all join me in wishing his wife all the best in her recovery, as we send our best wishes to Glenn and his family. This does, however, give me the opportunity to second this report and give my take on the work of the Place Select Committee since its inception last year. I consider myself lucky in having such a diverse range of subjects with which to scrutinise. Items that we've had come before us in the last year are as follows: public transport and concessionary travel, highway services, road safety, waste management and recycling in Nottinghamshire, response to the flooding in Worksop and surrounding areas in August 22, climate change, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, household waste recycling centres, Safer Nottinghamshire Board, Nottinghamshire Community Safety Agreement 23 to 25. On top of that, we did some in-depth reviews, firstly into concessionary travel, where in early 2023, some members of the Place Select Committee carried out a task and finish review into concessionary travel in Nottinghamshire. This review enabled members to gain an understanding of the Council's concessionary fare scheme and to examine what the scheme could look like in the future. All of the review's recommendations were subsequently accepted by the Cabinet member. Later, members looked into the detail of the refreshed visitor economy framework in advance of the strategy being considered for approval by the Cabinet member for economic development and asset management. The review meeting was a really positive and productive session. Members of the committee highlighted several areas that should be focused on in the creation of the action plan that would be used to drive forward the objectives of the visitor economy framework. A progress report will be received at a future meeting to look at the implementation of that framework. In the coming year, the Place Select Committee will be focused on the activities that will make Nottinghamshire cleaner, greener and provide good quality transport infrastructure. The committee will soon be starting a detailed review in a few weeks' time around how the delivery of the Council's household waste recycling centres could look in the future. This will be an in-depth review and will involve members of the review group carrying out site visits to get a detailed understanding of the issue. We get to go to all the glamorous parts of the county. Other issues that will be examined over the year include highways, EV charging and climate change, access to digital services and digital inclusion, and the net zero framework. It would be remiss of me not to thank a few people. So firstly, I'd like to thank the active committee members for all their contributions, and also those members who have and will be taking part in the reviews. My thanks to the officers for their attendance and input at both committee meetings, but also the pre-meetings and briefings, and also a special mention to Martin Elliott and to Kate Morris for their invaluable help and support. Finally, I'd like to thank the Cabinet members, Councillor Neil Clark and Councillor John Cotty, for attending the meetings and answering members' questions, along with their deputies, Councillors Mike Adams and Tom Smith. So with that, Mr Vice Chairman, I'm delighted to second this report to the full Council for noting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moxon. And Councillor Fold, please.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I assume as this is noting, we will not be voting on it.
It's noting, yes.
Thank you.
Well, we will be voting, but it's a voting to note.
We won't vote on this if it's for noting. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, we'll have that conversation after that another time. Okay. So right, first, I want to thank officers who've worked so hard to get the new scrutiny process working. None of what I'm about to say is criticism of you. You've all worked closely and patiently with the Labour group, and we really appreciate that. But it won't be a surprise to hear that the Labour group are very concerned, a little angry, to be honest, about the way scrutiny is managed at this council. And I use the word managed deliberately. It's very clear to us that decisions about what is scrutinised and when is very often not decided at scrutiny committees. At the Overview and Scrutiny Committee of 29th of June, and at your invitation, Councillor Elliott, thank you for that, I handed you a list that the Labour group had worked on to go onto the work programme of overview and scrutiny, and how much of that made it? Very little. On page 59 of the report, you say councillors and co-opted members prioritise issues. They really don't. Look in this report on page 75, and I quote, throughout 2023-24, the Overview Committee will continue to review how activity across the Council is delivering on the ambitions of the Nottinghamshire Plan and be involved in the development of the Council's budget and carry out a detailed scrutiny of the Council's budget proposals. Yet, two important things, but two items, the Nottinghamshire Plan and the budget. I mean, is that really it? We're repeatedly being told that there's limited time and resource to spend on scrutiny, and I realise that, but as a result, only serious and high-level items can be looked at. Well, what is serious for the administration may not be the same for those in opposition and on the back benches. It is them and it is us that should be helping to decide scrutiny priorities and not your cabinet. And if you're really serious about scrutiny, you would resource it better. And I'm not playing party politics. I realise that scrutiny isn't supposed to be party political, although I think that's sometimes a tough call. If you deny us in opposition the opportunity to scrutinise your decisions openly and in the public domain for our residents to see, not only will opportunities to change or reappraise decisions for the better may be missed, but history shows us very well that bad things will happen and our residents may suffer real harm. These decisions need to be made in public and properly. So come on, be serious about scrutiny, be transparent about when and where decisions are really being made, and give us the chance to make all our voices heard.
Thank you, Councillor Fole. Councillor Neil Clark, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I just want to very quickly, partly respond to those comments and very briefly say, actually, I view scrutiny very seriously, and it's a very important part of the function of this council and indeed any council that has a scrutiny function. Shock news, nobody's perfect, and also nobody has a monopoly on good ideas. So I welcome the scrutiny process because as a critical friend, it doesn't have to be controversial all the time, it's called confrontational. I view it as a critical friend and to help with policy development. Policy development, and that's an important part of the scrutiny function, and that's why I think during the course of the year there has been some contribution to development of policies, and long may that continue, and long may scrutiny be a critical friend. Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Payne, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman. And can I first of all start by thanking Councillor Elliott and officer colleagues and all members cross-party who are involved in scrutiny for the work that they do, the important work they do. And can I specifically say I thank you to my friend and good colleague, Councillor Guilfoyle, who can't be with us, and say that my thoughts are with Jean, Glyn and the wider family at what I know will be an incredibly difficult time for them. Mr. Vice Chairman, I rise to raise the issue of secondary school place planning, which I am particularly pleased to see in the report is in receipt of specific scrutiny from this council. And quite right that the issue is under scrutiny too, Mr. Vice Chairman, because this issue is a specific issue of public interest to all the people that we serve, where we put primary schools, where we put secondary schools, and where we choose not to. Back in 2019, Mr. Chairman, the residents who live in the Carlton planning area, alongside the then Labour MP Vernon Coker, myself as the county councillor and others, raised concerns and issues specifically to this county council about a oncoming shortfall in secondary school places. Earlier in March, the then chairman of the Children and Young Persons Committee, one Councillor Owen, took to the sheets of the Nottingham Post to say that the warnings about shortfall in secondary school places were complete nonsense. And I quote, "Disappointing, therefore, Mr. Vice Chairman, that just recently this county council and this Conservative administration have decided to renege on a promise to build a new primary school in order to facilitate issues around a shortfall with secondary school places within the Carlton pupil place planning area." And I quote, Mr. Vice Chairman, "This county council is now seeking to renege on its promise to build a new primary school at Chase Farm in Gedling, instead to spend the money to Carlton Academy Secondary School, and they specifically say in their statement, Mr. Vice Chairman, that Nottinghamshire County Council have identified a shortfall of secondary school places within the locality and at the Carlton Academy, which is the catchment school for the Chase Farm development. So either Mr. Owen in 2019 was lying, or the officers now who have submitted the planning statement to vary the planning conditions are not telling the truth. And I think I know who I believe in this, because in my dealings on this issue, Mr. Vice Chairman, the officers have been absolutely exemplary over this issue. So the point I want to put on record, Mr. Vice Chairman, is the scrutiny of this area needs to continue. There is £3.6 million of 106 monies currently sat for this county council to build a new primary school at Chase Farm, which it promised to the residents who have spent the best part of £400,000 or £450,000 on new houses on that estate on the proviso there would be a primary school. This county council, this administration, is now trying to remove that money, renege on its promise to build a primary school, and instead fund secondary school places at Carlton Academy. I am supportive of investing in secondary school places at Carlton Academy, but this administration, Mr. Chairman, could choose to fund both. It could use the existing £3.6 million it has in 106 contributions from the developer, and it could choose, if it wishes to fund Carlton secondary school places through either one-off reserves, receipts from the capital disposals of assets that it has, including the Gedling school site, which we know that they're going to remove, or, Mr. Chairman, finally, and it could choose to do all three of these, it could review its current basic needs allocation. And before anybody stands up and tells me, no, it can't do that because its basic needs allocation is already stretched, this has recently taken place in West Bridgford. We've seen a new primary school built on the Rivendell estate in Teal Close, represented by Councillor Michael Adams. And if it's good enough for Rivendell and Teal Close, if it's good enough to build primary schools in other parts of Nottinghamshire where there is a surplus of places, then it should be good enough for Gedling. I can hear the chuntering, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, because I know they don't like scrutiny. I know they don't like accountability, but this report is about scrutiny and accountability, and this county council is choosing to turn away £3.6 million that currently sits in a bank account to build a new primary school for residents they promised to build a new primary school on. They were warned by colleagues on this side about the issue around secondary school places, and instead, Councillor Owen chased cheap headlines at the time instead of getting ahead of the issue and dealing with the issue. Most of our primary schools, I finish on this point, Mr. Vice Chairman, most of our primary schools in this county, and indeed the country, were built post the Second World War. Hence the issues we've seen with aerated concrete rack in recent weeks. Why on earth would this county council be choosing not to use £3.6 million of money it has from housing developers to build a primary school that it promised to the people who live on the Chase Farm estate within Gedling? I've made my point, Mr. Vice Chairman. I hope they change their mind.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. And I would just remind colleagues that we are noting a scrutiny report on numerous subjects. Obviously, we've had a very passionate speech there. So our next speaker is Councillor Carr.
Thank you. I noticed there's a lot of shuffling on chairs going off over there, and there should be, because quite frankly, we're hearing from members of the opposition groups that they're not entirely happy with the scrutiny process, and really a governing party should be concerned when the opposition aren't happy with the scrutiny process, and that is where I'm standing at the moment. So Councillor Fole raised the input from Cabinet. There should be the minimal impact from the executive of a council into scrutiny, other than at the invitation of members of the scrutiny committees. It's that simple. You can't have effective scrutiny if members of the cabinet are involved in that scrutiny. It's as simple as that. And from an opposition point of view, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, I've found the whole scrutiny process very disappointing. And I'll reiterate, Kate, what you said. I was at the meeting when we were asked for ideas, and you actually had to point out that the Labour group had given ideas but they hadn't appeared on the working programme. So that just makes a mockery of asking for ideas because people are suggesting them. When you are at scrutiny committees, recommendations are made that don't actually reflect the debate that's just taken place. And when you are, and they're obviously pre-written before the debate takes place. And when you try yourself as a member of that committee to suggest a recommendation, it throws the whole thing into absolute chaos. Nobody knows how to handle that. No, we don't want to have it as a recommendation. Well, do you know what? If somebody on that committee says they want to make a recommendation that's seconded, it should be voted on. And if it's voted through, it should be part of the recommendations. That hasn't happened on some of the committees that I've sat on. I find that very, very disappointing. The other thing that I keep bringing up as well is that scoping is done by the chairman of the committee with officers before the working parties even meet. That's not scrutiny. That is not scrutiny. It's end of. I've never known it happen anywhere else. It didn't used to happen here. It certainly doesn't happen at Broxtowe. The working groups scope it. Multi-party and non-party groups scope the work that they do. It's quite straightforward. The calling procedure is too rigid. Call-ins are part of scrutiny. When this group called in the costs for the new council offices at Todley Farm, it was refused. And the reason was that the cabinet member for economic development and asset management had all the financial information when making the decision. Well, bully for him. Why can't we see that information? Again, it's quite straightforward. We didn't see that information. I think members are beginning to feel actually quite disenfranchised by the actual process. And no doubt, because I've put forward my concerns, I hope in a measured and reasonable way that I will get criticised. And one of those criticisms will be that, well, your group don't attend meetings. Your group don't attend. Well, if you look, we're not on many. And there's a reason for that. I put my name down for a working party to look at the cost of living crisis. It was clear in that meeting that there were members of the Conservative group who didn't even think that we should be discussing that in scrutiny. So why should I waste my time when there are people going onto that scrutiny committee who have already made their mind up before they've listened to the evidence? It's quite straightforward.
Talking of time, 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine, thank you. Yeah, well, I don't think I've wasted it. You should be listening.
Point of order, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Councillor Clark.
Personal explanation. I was listening very carefully, which is why I'm taking issue with the fact that I explained when I was speaking that I take scrutiny very seriously.
What point of order is that? Can I have my extra time, please? Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Carr is criticising us for not listening. We were listening.
I'm sorry. I'm absolutely certain. Sorry.
Councillor Clark is on. Shall we just get over the slight issue of what point of order is?
Absolutely. What I'm sure you.
And you've got 20
I'm
seconds
sure you
left.
agree with scrutiny. It's the fact that we don't think it's working well that you should be listening to. I'm not doubting that, and it isn't. So we need to review this. I know it's a voting report. If it was a voting report, I would not be support. Stop shouting out. Stop shouting
He's only
out.
got 8 seconds left. Let's just.
For goodness sake, what bad behaviour from the Conservatives today.
Thank you, Councillor Carr, and I'm sure everybody realises. Councillor Carr, thank you. Good behaviour from everyone, please. That's a lovely thing to aim for. Councillor Girling is next on the list, please.
Yeah, well, a bit shocked really. Thank you, Vice Chairman. Well, I was going to say I've really welcomed scrutiny, and I've been scrutinised twice actually, which sounds quite painful, but actually I've
I really welcome the input from members in the scrutiny committees to inform me of their opinion, of which actually I took the recommendation. So, you know, it shows that it actually works. So, you know, the visitor economy in terms of the scrutiny on that and the input from the members of that committee have been integrated into what we're now finally doing. And it's recognised actually as a really good visitor economy framework. So thank you for that. So, you know, and to say that it's only important to the cabinet members and not you, well, if you don't find that what we're going to do with the visitor economy important, I'm a bit aghast at that. And the other reason, the other thing I was scrutinised on was the buildings. You know, we've got lots of buildings in Nottinghamshire, and I could have just gone and say, yeah, close that, keep that open, move them over there. But I didn't, because I wanted to get a feeling from you as the scrutiny committees, because some of those buildings are in your patch, they're not in my patch, and I wanted to get that feedback. And again, that's a massive decision being made by this council, and if you don't find that important, Councillor Fold, then I'm not sure what you will find important. Now, you can pick anything of my subjects because it's on the forward plan. It goes on the forward plan. If you want to scrutinise it, I welcome it. Please put it down. I'm happy. Yeah, let's have a look at what I'm doing. Let's do that. And to say we shouldn't be part of that, Councillor Carr, is flabbergasting, because I was there answering questions from the scrutiny committees. They're challenging me, they're scrutinizing me, and you're saying we shouldn't even be there. I don't get that. Of course we should be there. I only attended, I think, one of the meetings each time so that I could be questioned. The rest of the time you got on with it. So, of course we should be there, because we are being scrutinised. We are there for you to ask questions about them. That's what scrutiny is. So I welcome it. If it's not working for you, maybe you should attend. Maybe you should make your point. Just because other people within that scrutiny don't agree with you, it doesn't mean they're wrong, and it doesn't mean you're wrong. It's all about the debate. So do the debate, but you can't do the debate if you're not there. Thank you, Chairman.
Clarification, very brief. I think if you look back at the minutes of all the select committees, the independent lights have their full quota at each of those.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Point made. Councillor Pringle, please.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, thanks to Councillor Elliott for presenting the papers. I think, certainly from my own, I've only ever sat on committees previously to the changeover to Cabinet. There have been lots of changes as far as I'm concerned, and I don't think we've implemented all of them perfectly, but that's not a negative. I think we'll move forward on that. However, I think the scope inside is slightly impractical if the working group's not set up prior to the scope of the working group being put in place. I think we need to look at that to move that forward. Councillor Watson, thanks for mentioning Councillor Guilfoyle and his family at this point, and I know we all support him at this time. Well, Councillor Guilfoyle and another, who I shall not mention, have guided me through what they've said into this cabinet system through their experience. And part of the difficulty I have is that it's one of your own members who is so clear at what scrutiny should be. It's in a positive way delivers to the challenge of still discussing committee matters or the sense of committee matters at the committee scrutiny meetings that we have. And he's right. That's what we tend to do when we're addressing partners that come to us. We're still not clear as to the scrutiny, and it falls into the committee. So, Councillor, and you know I'm talking about you. That's absolutely right with what he says, that we need to be better at scrutiny, and I'm sure we will be. But scrutiny works both ways, and when you control the cabinet as you do, it's difficult sometimes to swallow what comes off it, and that will be the same either way. So when there's a challenge, that's a political challenge, yeah, and that boosts and should make progress in making sure the scrutiny process through the cabinet system is better for us all. Yeah, so thanks for delivering the papers. I think there's things that we need to work on, but we know that anyway. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pringle. We've got 7 more speakers on this item, and the next speaker is Councillor Roger Jackson.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I rise actually as a newly appointed chair of the Adult Social Care and Public Health Select Committee, so I'm quite new into this scrutinising. But we do a lot of work, and I think we do a lot of good work. What is going on? You know, we've revamped our work programme to make it more a practical work programme and a more doable programme going forward, and to look at things that affect the residents of Nottinghamshire and improve their health and outcomes, especially in some of the deprived areas of our county. I intend to look at the forward plan so the committee can be more proactive on forthcoming decisions being made, especially in the future demands on social care services, which in Asian society is always going to come up. So I think it's better that we look at things coming in, not to scrutinise them before decisions are made. We have recently set up a working group to review daycare opportunities and a joint working group with the Health and Children's Scrutiny Committee on recommissioning Nottinghamshire Health Free Families programme. Work's been done on prevention of vaping and tobacco use, smoking, but we need to do a lot more work on drug and alcohol abuse and also mental health issues. And we're also looking at getting people to take up their invites for health checks. You know, prevention is always a lot better than the cure. You know, over the 45s who are invited for health checks, if they have issues, we need to get them so to have these health checks and encourage them to go along. It's all part of the work that the Scrutiny Committee does. We must keep a close eye on our finances and spending and keeping things to budget where we possibly can. But scrutiny is only as good as the members on the committee and the questions that they ask. And I do thank the members of the committee I chair for their contributions. I look forward to working with them in the future. I also thank the council officers for coming along and giving their input and advice at meetings. And also to councillors Barney and Carlton for coming and attending our meeting. And I think it is important, it's been said, that cabinet members attend the meeting. They are making decisions, so we are scrutinising their decisions, and that's why I want to look at their forward plan, so we can scrutinise their decisions before they come out, and probably put some input into their decisions going forward. So I thank everybody for their input, and also Kate and Martin as well for helping organising all the meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson, and Councillor Welsh, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I love scrutiny. I do think it's absolutely fabulous. Does it work as well at this council as it should do? No, I don't think it does. But that's not to actually criticise the power of some of the things that have happened in this council with regards to scrutiny, because I do think when it is done right and people do actively engage in the process, things can happen and there are positive outcomes with regards to that. But I wasn't actually going to speak, but I was because of Councillor Neil Clark. Councillor Clark mentioned that scrutiny is a critical friend. Now, I've spent some time through my own legal studies looking at scrutiny across this country at various different councils, which is why actually I have a love for it. And when things go wrong at a council, it is because scrutiny is not in place properly. And it is because scrutiny is viewed more as a critical friend than actually what it should be. Scrutiny, the purpose of scrutiny and the legal definition with regards to that, categorically says that the critical friend aspect of it should not be involved at any point with regards to it. That includes, and that is to avoid what is called lobbying as well, which there was a chair and vice chair of this council recently that went to visit something that was being scrutinised a week later and met with people without the rest of the committee there, so they came with a lobbied interest with regards to it. That is my own personal opinion with regards to something that happened. The purpose of scrutiny is the same as select committees in the Houses of Parliament, is to ensure that council and officers are held accountable for the decisions they make on behalf of our communities. Does that happen how it should be? No. And here's another example. And I think this is really important that we start talking about this, because I said I'm a firm believer in scrutiny, and there's some fantastic chairs from scrutiny in this room, and we've looked at some really, really important things. But it is not working as it should be, and it's certainly scrutiny is not as good as it was under the old system. Public cannot scrutinise what is going on in this council as much as they could under the other system, and the media can't scrutinise what is going on in this council as much as what was going on in the previous system. So I'll go back to what I said with regards to the fact is, if you don't scrutinise properly, bad things happen. Really bad things happen in the council. If there is a constitution that consistently says, page 5 says this, but if you do page 6 and you reply like this and you have to have a meeting, if a constitution consistently does that and doesn't have the freedom and the movement to say, actually, this person is raising something really valid and we need to open our eyes to it, there becomes a problem. This isn't a political point, this is a point about scrutiny as a whole. So, just to end, and just to say, scrutiny is not working in this council as it should be. The last example that I'm going to use, the last Health Scrutiny Committee, I asked whether we could look at the fact that mental health support positions have been rolled out in some secondary schools in Nottinghamshire, but not all of them. Is there something we could do with regards to looking at with regards to mental health? I was told that would be taken away and someone would get back to me with regards to whether it was going to go to the Health Scrutiny Committee or whether it was going to the Children's Committee. No correspondence since. No, nobody's got back to me. Nobody's said anything. No one said yes or no. This is a serious thing. It's in our youth strategy about mental health support for children and young people. We've just had a long conversation of it. It's an important thing that I've raised legitimately at a committee, and this had no coming back. And this is what I mean about some of those things that just aren't working in our scrutiny system, and it needs to be looked at and it needs to be addressed as a matter of urgency, because as I said, when you don't get it right with scrutiny, bad things happen.
Thank you, Councillor Welsh. Councillor Adams, please.
Thank you very much. I didn't actually have a desire to talk on this item at all, just like Councillor Welsh didn't. It does beg the question. I know he's left the room at this point, but why did he protest so much about this? Is it because he feels embarrassed that at Gedling Borough Council's meeting only last week, his councillors and himself voted against a motion in Gedling where he, as deputy leader, would have enabled the chair of the scrutiny committee to be an opposition member or even the deputy? At Gedling, you see, everybody that controls scrutiny is actually the lead party. There is no actual ability for opposition parties to even deputy chair that. I am moving on to the point, Chairman, I promise. But I just want to answer that point. Surely that is the pot calling the kettle. At Gedling, as well, scrutiny happens on things like flooding or school places. It's clear that they don't want to scrutinise the things that are actually directly to do with Gedling, but politically somewhere else, somewhere where they can maybe benefit in a later election. But I want to talk about the word need. I think need's an incredibly important thing, and I'm sure that concept will be picked up again later. I'm proud of this council, actually, that we've come to the aid of a problem and ensure that the problem has the resource it needs, i.e. we don't need any more primary places in that area, but what we do need is secondary school places, and therefore we have covered that need. If I need electricity to drive my car, I don't go and put it in my neighbour's fully charged Tesla, as it's not needed. We need school places at Carlton Willows, which, although has issues with its parking at the moment, which I can confirm officers from Not CT and others are dealing with. The point, though, is this wonderful new school is stunning inside, and it has the capacity for up to 500 kids to sit at once, even at lunchtime. So it has the capacity for more kids, so surely we should put more kids in it. We have an incredible amount of good primary schools in Gedling, and so if there's space in those, we should use them. We shouldn't be building more. And I'm glad he mentioned Rivendell, because it is a great school with great teachers who are incredibly proactive. Going back to the scrutiny point, finally, here, The reason why things are scrutinised and done in this way in this council, where we have representation from alternative members, is that that's really important, because we shouldn't be always coming up with the ideas, as Councillor Clark said. We're not the people that are responsible for all the ideas. And it's important that we seek people with other life experience to bring those ideas to the fore. So I disagree wholeheartedly with the idea that this council does not scrutinise well. I've sat on health scrutiny now for into my third year, and it has been chaired by the fabulous Sue Saddington, who has done that in an incredibly good, open and professional way, not taking any direct dealing with political issues, in the sense that she deals with it on purely a non-political basis. And that's how scrutiny should be. That's how scrutiny should always operate, on a non-political basis. Unfortunately, some people in that committee are unable to not be political in the scrutiny committee. And that's a shame, because there's got to be a point in this place where we take the best of the ideas that we all bring to the table, whether you be somebody that was in property in a previous life, or somebody that's been an accountant in a previous life, or somebody that's been in the police in a previous life. We all have experiences here that we can all bring to the table, and we can all come at things from different angles. And as a result of the people that we represent in Nottinghamshire, who all come from different backgrounds and have different experiences in their lives, it's important that we all represent them accordingly. And so that useful brain power, if you like, from all of us can be tabled together in scrutiny, and we can really get to the crux of issues like the recent issue with maternity that we've been dealing with in the Health Scrutiny Committee, an incredibly important issue across that we've all had dealings with, or many of us have had dealings with, who have had children, but many of us will have heard about on the national news, and it's been taken up as an incredibly serious issue. All of that happened as a result of some of the things that were brought up in that Scrutiny Committee. And so scrutiny has a really important role to live and run in Nottinghamshire. It's an incredibly important role to the success or failure of this council. I personally am incredibly proud to be in a council that assesses need and then puts resource into it. Thank you. Rather than being in a council that looks at an opportunity to be political or gain some political capital and makes a decision, or virtue signals. I'm much more proud of a council that actually addresses need, puts money into it, and is effective. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Now we have six more speakers have indicated to speak on this item. Conscious of the time, bearing in mind, colleagues, as well, we've got a very busy agenda, other matters to be discussing. So I'm not stifling things, but I'm just asking people to remember and consider that. It's coming up to 24 minutes past 12, bearing in mind what we were saying earlier on about what might be happening at 12:30. So moving on to Councillor Barney, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't feel stifled, but I will stifle myself and keep my comments extremely brief. I think that a number of us have said that we absolutely passionately believe in scrutiny. And having heard the comments from the Chambers today, I think that I believe in the scrutiny of the scrutiny as well. We should be listening to everything you're saying, and we should be taking on board. And that's why I welcome point 7, that we are undertaking a review of our scrutiny processes, and that should continue. Why should it continue? Because democracy matters, doesn't it? And we can't take for granted that always at any point in the future, the honesty and the transparency, which I know absolutely exists in our cabinet and with our officers and our teams in this council, it can't always assume that it'll be there. And that's when scrutiny really, really matters, for the points that Councillor Foll made right in the her opening remarks. We must shine light in dark corners. I just wanted to comment very briefly on the fact that my paper was the first to be called in, actually, I think, Councillor Welsh, because of your concerns over health visits through COVID. And just to facilitate the fact that where there's no cover-ups on this side, you brought the comments and the challenges around that scrutiny, but then our group actually added to that and substantiated it and took other criticisms of that paper to call that it wasn't even initially brought to task on. So scrutiny, I think, is being done well. It's not being done perfectly. We are listening. We must listen. And we must always ensure that there's an honest and open environment with no dark corners. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barney. Councillor Zadrozny, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, just quickly, I don't want to labour many of the points, but I think it's clear to a number of us that scrutiny as it is failing in many areas. And what I appreciate is that there is the review, and I gave a lengthy interview to the Centre for Scrutiny and Governance a couple of weeks ago. I guess my point is, and my question is, that once that review comes back, will all members, or at least lead members, get a full unabridged version of the report that comes back? And will the administration commit to accepting any of the findings of the report to make sure that scrutiny is as positive as it can be? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, thank you, Councillor Zadrozny. I'm sure those points have been noted. Councillor Lee.
Chairman, thank you. I've not been a county councillor for long. I've been a district councillor for 8 years, but not a county councillor for long. And I've got to admit, the scrutiny here is probably the best I've seen. No, I've got.
Please.
So I'm glad Labour and the Independents laughed on that, because only a month ago did members that represent Nottinghamshire Council here ask for an extra scrutiny body. We've only got one at Nottinghamshire. We asked for an extra one. What did Labour and the Independents do? They voted against it because they didn't want scrutiny when they're in charge. It's a shock, isn't it? I'm shocked. I'm shocked. They voted against it. We proposed it, and Councillor Debbie Darby and Councillor Mike Pringle voted against it. So they say one thing here and another elsewhere.
Councillor Lee, I see you sat down, but I was just. Can I remind colleague Andre, please? Can we just try and stick to county council scrutiny, everybody? Right, Councillor Creamer, please.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Yeah, just be very, very quick. Agree with some of the items that's actually been said, and particularly with Councillor Carr, when it comes to the start of any scrutiny process, and the very start of any scrutiny process is actually what you can decide to scrutinise. And in the main, it's the opposition, with help from whoever the leader actually should be deciding that. It shouldn't be in the hands of the cabinet. And again, at the start of any process, when we're actually doing a working party, the first meeting, and I will go back just to Gedling and other places where I've been, is that the very first meeting is the scoping meeting. You don't actually get the scope when you actually volunteer for set things. So again, that could do with changing, because we want to decide as a scrutiny and work party what we're going to scrutinise and how. And this gets the whole point of being led. Nobody's saying we're not doing good jobs in the working party. It's how we're doing it and being led, and how we're being pointed in which direction. That is not the case as it should be. A scrutiny should be independent, even of it, the ruling group is of the opposition, and it shouldn't be political. So I agree with you on that one, Councillor Adams, who's been very political about being not political. It shouldn't be political. We should be more like the planning committee, in effect, of standing there independently, scrutinising what the council, what the cabinet is doing. Are they doing it right? Is it good for our residents? Is it good for the council? So yes, we will. As I say, we won't be supporting this because of the way we're being led. Scrutiny can work really well. It does work well in other places. It works well in parts here. It could work better. It should work better. And if you actually do a better report, it will work better.
Thank you, Councillor Creamer. That sounds like a school report. Needs to see me. Right, 2 more speakers, and then we'll have the original mover to wind up. So, Councillor Sam Smith, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've been smiling at Councillor Payne over the chamber because I can't not respond to that. As Chairman of the Children and Families Select Committee, I asked for a review into secondary school place planning because I'm aware of the demands across the county. And scrutiny, if it works effectively, can bring together the Place Department, bring together the Children and Families Department, and look at how we can help deliver to meet those demands. Councillor Payne welcomed that. But on the same hand, Councillor Payne, can I just remind you, you are Deputy Leader of a council that just voted to delay funding from the Chase Farm development aimed at funding extensions to Carlton Academy. Birth rates are declining, and when birth rates decline, they impact primary schools first. And building another within the planning area mentioned will add to what is already a high surplus and could then trigger redundancies or a reduction in education provision, because school funding that helps pay for all those is based on per pupil figures. And there is a framework which we all need to be aware of, Mr. Vice Chairman, for building new schools. And that framework cannot be ignored. So if every councillor at the lunch break, which I'll hurry up so you can all get to, puts their hand in the pocket and offers to pay for the Chase Farm primary school, guess what? The DFE will say no. They'll block it because the demand isn't there. This council's aware of that. So what have we done? We've suggested that the funding, rather than going back to the developer, because that's the only option, goes to secondary to meet the demand. Let's get on with it, Councillor Payne. Let's get your council to make that happen. Now, I'll turn to the report, Mr. Vice Chairman. As it references, it's been a very busy year for the Children and Families Select Committee. We have considered the continuation of the council scheme for providing financial support towards the cost of replacing school clothing and footwear for families in exceptional circumstances ahead of a decision being made by the Cabinet member. So that's pre-decision scrutiny. Members of my committee agreed that the scheme should continue and recommended that the Cabinet member raises the overall budget from £500 to £1,000. This, Mr. Chairman, was accepted by the Cabinet member upon taking the decision. We have also identified that education, health and care plan process is an important area for detailed scrutiny review. The findings of that review will be considered at our October meeting before being submitted to Cabinet for consideration. But, Mr. Chairman, I can confirm that the recommendations included in that report will help to improve the EHCP process. We have also asked that further work be carried out to examine how the County Council could work with our partners to maximise the number of children accessing free school meals to help ensure that no child who is eligible for that is missing out on receiving them. We have also scrutinised the Nottinghamshire Safeguarding Children's Partnership to examine how it was fulfilling its duties and how it coordinates the multi-agency arrangements that were in place to deliver effective safeguarding activity that would protect children and young people across Nottinghamshire. And, Mr. Chairman, we have examined how people leaving the care system were supported to access education and employment. All of that is action, not just words. During the 2023-2024 year, the Children and Families Select Committee will be, to name just a few things on our work programme, monitoring the progress made by the Nottinghamshire Local Area SEND Partnership in implementing improvements to the experience and outcomes of children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities, informed by the priority areas and for action and areas for improvement identified during the recent Ofsted and Care Quality Commission inspection. We will be looking at the Council's holiday activity and food programme and examining how it is delivered to children and families across Nottinghamshire with the aim of helping to identify ways to increase participation. We will also be carrying out a task and finish review to examine how the Children and Families and Place departments can best work together on projects being implemented across Nottinghamshire to deliver additional secondary school places, as I mentioned earlier. And, Mr. Chairman, in addition, we will be reviewing the draft revised elective home education policy in advance of it being considered for approval by the Cabinet member for Children and Families. So with all that said, I would finally like to thank those members of the committee who have contributed to the work programme and scrutiny reviews. Their action, not just words input, is having a tangible impact on the lives of children and families across our county. I'd also like to thank the fantastic officers in supporting my committee, including Lucy Peel, Martin Elliott and Adrian Mann, who has sadly now left us, for their fantastic support. I look forward to continuing to chair the committee in the year ahead and continue to put recommendations forward to Cabinet to improve the lives of children and families across our county.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Bang on time. Councillor Owen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I do find it particularly disappointing that Councillor Payne should use a discussion on scrutiny as an opportunity to get up and publicly call me a liar. I find it very disingenuous. In the unlikely event that he gets elected to the Houses of Parliament, then I think that if he did that in that place, he would be torn off a strip by the Speaker. But there we are. That's the way it is. I always find with Councillor Payne that telling the truth is far more devastating than anything that I can make up. we haven't got scrutiny right. Well, we never expected to get it right at the very beginning. If you recall, just over a year ago, we changed the constitution of this council in a significant way. And one of the ways we changed it was to introduce scrutiny. And it was always going to be the case that we would never get it right first time, largely because very few members had actually experienced scrutiny as part of their work as a councillor for a long, long time, if at all. So we said that we would keep it under review. And that is exactly what we are doing. We're recommending that there be this independent review being conducted by an external body, which has already clearly started. And it's an opportunity for most, if not all, councillors, either directly or indirectly, to feed into how scrutiny should be developed going forward. But I will not accept that we have not been as transparent as we possibly can be. I was always very keen when we changed the constitution that the opposition parties should have a strong and powerful voice in the scrutiny process. And that is why we have given vice chairmanships to members of the opposition on all of the scrutiny committees. And if, as some members opposite are alleging, management of scrutiny hasn't been as effective as it should have been, then I wonder where the blame should really lie. Not entirely with the controlling group. We have been as transparent and as supportive of the opposition in involving them in scrutiny as we possibly can be. So I won't accept that. But no, we haven't got it completely right. I have criticised and made comment publicly, certainly on the scrutiny committee that I sit on, the Adult Social Care Scrutiny Committee, that what we've been presented with are old-style committee reports, and that is not good enough. And I accept that. And I've made suggestions for items that can be scrutinised, as other members can as well. So I think there's been a lot of politicking here this morning, quite unnecessarily so, because we have accepted that we need to improve the scrutiny process. We will improve the scrutiny process, but it involves all of us being involved, not sitting on the sidelines and sniping, but getting actively involved. And we have facilitated that active involvement in the structures that we've put in place. And I am very keen that scrutiny should work, that we should put cabinet members under pressure. I want them in front of the scrutiny committees. Let them start earning the money a bit more. Put them on the spot. Ask them the difficult questions. There's nothing to stop you doing that. They shouldn't be barred from attending. They should be there as appropriate, being put on the spot and being asked those difficult questions. So we want to put scrutiny right, participate in the review, and we can be a very, very effective scrutiny body as a council. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Owen. Right, Councillor Elliott, you move the original motion. Now is your moment to reply. So over to Councillor Elliott.
Where do you start? Thank you. I think it's been a reasonable debate. Considering scrutiny is apolitical, I've heard quite a lot of, as Councillor Owen just said, politicking going on. I mean, Councillor Payne started off with some real positive comments, and then I think it turned into an electioneering speech, really, didn't it? Councillor Folt, very interesting that you think we're managed. I can take that away. I don't agree with you. The idea of scrutiny is we scrutinise the cabinet members, so cabinet has to be involved somewhere along those lines. No, unlimited time and resources. I think you'll find all councils have limited time and resources. We only have so much time. We can only do so much. But it seems that a lot of the opposition, Independent and Labour, the negative comments is because you don't like you don't like the outcomes of scrutiny, or you don't like what the council are doing. That's what it comes across as. Okay. Pardon? Yeah, I've listened to you. I gave you the respect.
Come on, let him wind.
No, I didn't.
Let's just let him wind up.
All members will be involved in the review. So I think that sums it up, really, doesn't it? Bullet point 7 here. An independent review of the council scrutiny arrangements is currently underway, being led by the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny, with all members having the opportunity to feed their views and ideas into the review. So it'll be. Hopefully, this is going to be really constructive, and we will share that with you. We'll bring it back. As Councillor Owen said, scrutiny might not be working as well as it could be, but we knew, aren't we? We've learned. This is our second year going into scrutiny with our 151 officer Nigel there. We learned a lot the way how we did our budget review. Yeah, budget consultation. So we learned from that. We started it earlier this year. So there are positives coming from it, and I think there's a lot of positive work coming from it. Yeah. So just give us the time, work with us, and that's all of you. You're all invited to our reviews and working parties, but you don't tend to be listening now, so I don't know if you show us the respect and actually take part in it, then it's positive scrutiny, isn't it? Okay, and it does sadden me that you can't back the report, although it's only for noting. So I think I've said enough, and I'd like to thank once again the cabinet members that have been scrutinised for adding a lot of positive and value to the scrutiny process. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Right, goodness me, we've had a big discussion on this, but we get to a point now where I move that the contents of the report and the actions approved be noted. Show of hands, those in agreement.
Just before you do that, can I just ask for some clarification? Why are we being asked to vote on a report that's for noting only? We've checked the Constitution and it isn't kind of terribly clear, but it just seems rather strange.
It's what we normally do, Councillor Farr. When a report for noting, we normally have a show of hands. We did on the petitions report. We did it earlier.
So basically, we're accepting the noting of a report, in effect.
I think if we vote to accept the report, what we're actually voting de facto is to accept the contents of the report. That means we accept what it says, which is not the same as just noting it exists on the paper.
Well, this is the comment noted. We've got the recommendation in front of it. It is a report for noting, so I'll say again, I'll formally move that the contents of the report and the actions approved are noted. That's what we're doing. Are we agreeing? Those in favour, please show. Any against? Quiet, please. Quiet. Got those? Were there any abstentions? 2, 3, 2. Stick your hands up clearly if you're voting. Yeah. 2. Okay. Right, thank you, colleagues. So the outcome of the vote there was 31 for, 22 against, and 2 abstentions. Thank you for your contributions on that. It's coming up to 12:45. I think just before we go, can I remind colleagues we have got a busy afternoon, so do bear that in mind. We want to get through all the items on the agenda. It's 12:45 now. Can we aim to be back in an hour's time at 1:45? Okay, thank you.